Hi, welcome to Papa's Workshop. You know, I love to be able to recycle old cabinets and different wood, and that's what we're doing today. Taking an old cabinet, and all it is the face frame, but it matches the other cabinets that's in this utility room. And we're taking an old utility sink and removing the legs from it, and we're going to combine the two. It's going to be a really nice project to have the sink and the cabinet in the utility room. So let's get started. A special thank you to all of my patrons for making this video possible. I appreciate each and every one of you. And to everyone in the community, please take the opportunity to subscribe today and hit the little bell so that you'll be notified on all of the videos I upload. Now the first thing I want to show you is the face frame itself. It has the door at the bottom, and that's going to give us access to some storage underneath. The drawer front is actually fixed, but this matches the other cabinets in the utility room, and this is what we're going to start with to build the cabinet to hold the utility sink. Now this is a 24-inch wide cabinet base. The first thing that needs to be done is to be able to take the 1/2-inch plywood and be able to cut it down to size. Now one of the things that I'm doing too on this cabinet by request is to be able to raise this cabinet up higher than the standard height of the cabinets. Typically your cabinet's going to be 36 inches high. Well, we're raising this one up another 6 inches. So I'm going to cut out the height of the cabinet with this first cut. And the other thing I want you to notice is I have my new dust mask on by Stealth Mask. I am really loving this. This is a very comfortable mask. It's an N100 filter that keeps all of that dust out of my lungs. And I am absolutely loving it. I'll have a link down in the description should you want to purchase one of these. It is a great addition to the shop. With the height cut, now I need to switch the plywood around and be able to cut the depth. Now this is a 24-inch cabinet, and so I'm cutting this 24 inches, and that is the perfect size to be able to accept this utility sink into this opening. Now I'm not sure if this has ever been done before, but I think this is a great addition to be able to have an upgrade in your utility room where you have the cabinets already in place, and now you want to be able to hide that ugly utility sink in its own cabinet. Off camera, I changed out the saw blade and put a dado set in it where it was 1/2 inch thick, and I raised up the blade to be able to cut a depth of 1/4 inch. This allows me to put the dado in to be able to accept the bottom shelf of the cabinet, and that looks absolutely awesome. Now here's a close-up look at that dado cut into the plywood side. And that's going to accept the plywood for the floor of the cabinet. The next thing we've got to do is cut out the toe kick itself. Now remember, this cabinet's an extra 6 inches high. They also wanted the toe kick to come back a little bit deeper. So I'm setting this up at 4 inches. Now to be able to prevent the tear out, I'm using a utility knife and I'm cutting the surface. And by doing that, that is virtually going to eliminate any tear out in that plywood and give a nice smooth cut. In addition to using the utility knife to score the surface of the plywood, I also like to be able to use a down cut jigsaw blade. Now they're a little bit hard to find, but they're well worth it. When you're using the finished side of the wood, it gives you an excellent cut also. So combining the scoring and the down cut bit, I have a nice clean cut. Now one thing I want you to remember, if you're making a cabinet like this, you have to have a left and a right side. So you got to be careful when you're cutting out this toe kick that you don't make two of the same size cabinets. You got to look and make sure that you make a left and a right, because you'll be cutting it out on the wrong side. So I made my first cut again. Again, I used a utility knife to score the plywood, and that down cut bit works extremely well. Now it's not necessary to score your line when you're cutting with the grain, because it will cut nice and clean. When you look at this video and you see this toe kick being so large, it probably says, wow, this is very strange. And quite frankly, it looked the same way to me. I don't think I've ever built a cabinet where I raised it up an additional 6 inches. I want to show you the down-cut jigsaw blade. The teeth actually point down instead of upward. Now I cut the notches out each side to be able to go into the bottom of this cabinet, and this is actually the bottom shelf. So I'll just test fit, make sure that it looks real good, and then we're going to use glue. Lots of glue to be able to hold this in place. Now I'm going to put the bottom in first, and once the bottom's in, then I'm just going to be able to go ahead and set the sides up and put them into the dados for this bottom, and that will help hold everything together. And of course we're going to use glue in this dado, because that's the main thing that's going to hold this cabinet together. Now I am going to be using the 1-inch staples. This is a 18 gauge staple from my gun, and that will hold it in place. And the staples actually do very, very well in this plywood. Now to be able to put these staples in, you have to hold the gun at an angle, because if you don't, you run the risk of having that nail come out the face of the cabinet, and you really don't want that to happen. But that will hold it in place nice and solid. The next piece to go in is the part that will establish the toe kick itself. And again, I'm putting glue on the edges to be able to make sure this holds very well. And then I'll go ahead and use the same staple and staple it in place. Now I didn't use the rabbet joints or anything here. This is just a butt joint, because there's really not a lot of pressure that's on here, and the glue is going to hold it just fine. Only thing I want to be able to do is have it nice and flush on the front, or in this case you're looking at it where I'm checking the bottom to make sure it's flush. Then just use the staple gun and shoot those staples right there in place. You don't really need a lot of staples. You only need to have them really at the corners, and that will take care of it. Now this will get a piece of finished trim, the color of the cabinets, on the front side, so it'll all look nice and pretty when it's all done. Now one word of caution that I want to give to you: when you're shooting the staples in like this, or any time that you're using the nail guns or staplers, make sure that you keep your fingers well out of the way. You do not want that staple coming out of that wood and catching a finger. That would mess up your whole entire day. And the last piece that goes in is the nailer that goes across the back of this cabinet. Now I'll put the cabinet down on the floor so that I could work with it easier. And again, I'm using plenty of glue. And this nailer is really larger than it had to be, but it was this leftover piece from the other cutoffs, and the only thing I needed to do was just cut the length, so that I left the same width of the wood. So again, I just set it in place, have it flush with the back, and then just staple that corner, and then I can move over and do the exact same thing on the other side. And then I'll just go ahead and staple it all the way down, and that will create a real good nailer. Now this opening is going to be able to accept the sink. It will be able to drop right in there. Only thing we'll need to be able to do is put the caulking in, and the cabinet itself will hold the weight of the sink. It's an open back so that the plumbing will be able to go right into that open space, so that makes it very easy. The only thing that needs to happen, and I'm not doing it here in the shop, is the actual finishing. As far as this project, I'm going to call this project done. So here's a look at the finished cabinet. Not bad from a piece of wood that probably would have ended up in the trash can, and being able to save that face frame was a good decision because that matches the cabinets. Here's a quick look at the back of the cabinet. You can see that open space so that plumbing can go in there. And the only thing that will need to be done is to be able to have it sealed of all the edges and the wood and put it in place. Now here's a quick look at the finished cabinet all installed. The only thing that still needs to be done is seal the wood, but that's for another day, and the homeowner is going to do that. Thank you for watching the video today, and if you liked the video, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button and that little bell next to it so you won't miss out on any of the videos that I'm uploading. Again, thank you for watching.